Time for a new update on 3i Atlas. Am I right? It's been a while, and I thought I'd come on here and talk a little bit more about it because there's been some new stuff coming out. So, if you don't know me, I am Dr. Jennifer Lisa Vest. I am a psychic medium with a background in astrophysics and philosophy. And I've been fascinated with 3i Atlas since July, since they first found it. And I've been following a lot of what like astronomers and astrophysicists are saying. I've been following what some of the amateur astrophotographers are saying. I've been following some other creators. And then I've also been tuning in myself intuitively and channeling 3i Atlas and getting information that way. And I like to combine all of that different, I like to combine different sources of information, whether, empirical or intuitive. And I like to combine them because I think they're all valid ways to get information. So it's been a while. And so I've been following along, and I wanted to just update you on some of what people have found in the last couple of weeks, because it's always something with this object. So the last time we spoke, NASA had a live stream, right? Do you all remember that? So I recorded the live stream and provided my own commentary. I was not impressed. And so that was the last information we had, was basically NASA didn't really give us any information, but their party line is, this is a comet. It's just a comet, nothing to see here. And it was kind of disappointing to a number of us, whether we are scientifically minded or intuitively minded. It was frustrating because there are so many anomalies, there are so many puzzles, there are so many questions that science can't currently answer that relate to this interstellar object, that we were really expecting more than that, right? So let's look at what some people are saying about 3i Atlas. What's new? Now, our favorite astrophysicist, Avi Loeb, has, of course, put out a number of posts and some papers since the NASA live stream. And so let's start with what he's been talking about and some of the pictures that have come out. All right, so we have this beautiful picture, which is from the JUICE, I think it's called the JUICE telescope on Jupiter. And this is from Avi Loeb's Medium post, and he's showing us a little bit of the shape of 3i Atlas, kind of based on these newer images. And so we can see two different jets or tails, and they're going in different directions. And it's really fascinating because they've never seen this before. They've never seen a comet have a tail or a jet facing the sun. That wasn't an optical illusion. And this one has been recorded to have several jets. But most interestingly, the fact that the jets are often, at least some of them, are pointing towards the sun, even though we would expect the solar wind to push any dust or debris coming off of a comet in the other direction. And so we would expect to have like a dust tail, right? That's actually how comets are defined, as these kind of icy balls that, careen through space with a long tail of dust and debris coming off the back of them. And that's partially because they're sublimating or disintegrating or melting, but it's also because of the pressure of the solar winds. And so the tail usually is in one direction. And we're not seeing that with this. So this is one of the many anomalies. And so Avi Loeb has identified like 13 different anomalies or puzzles that we don't really have answers for yet. And what I've been saying in my numerous posts about this is, if you have a hypothesis and your data is not supporting your hypothesis, then you got to consider other hypotheses, right? So a comet, these attributes just aren't attributes we've seen with comets before. And some people say, well, it's an interstellar, it's not a regular solar comet, so we don't know. But that's really the bottom line, isn't it? We really don't know. We really don't know. So why call it a comet, right? Well, there's apparently been some developments among scientists where at least some scientists are beginning to question this insistence on this party line that it's a comet, it's only a comet and nothing but a comet. It's so help us science. So another recent finding, which is suspicious, or we should say anomalous, at least does not support the kind of model of a comet, is what they found that this tail, this rather, it's not a tail, it's an anti-tail, which I think is a silly name. It's like calling your nose your anti-tail. And it's like, I don't have a tail, I have a nose. But because you think I should have a tail, you're going to call my nose an anti-tail. I mean, I think that's rhetorical duplicity, if you ask me. It's like you're trying to get people to think a certain way by using certain language, right? So let's call it what it is. It's a jet and it's sunward. And so what they have found now is that this sunward jet is facing the sun no matter which direction the object is facing. Again, this doesn't make sense. You would expect that whatever direction a comet moved in, its tail, right? If it's just a debris tail, right, would follow it. If this was a debris tail, why would it always face the sun no matter where the comet's facing, right? It doesn't make sense, right? Okay. So these are the anomalies, right? These are things that they don't make sense if you're just using the standard model or the standard hypothesis. And so I want to remind people that one of the things that I was told by my guides, and when I talked to 3i Atlas a couple of weeks ago, was that they are delivering data to the scientists, a lot of data. And the data that they're sending to the scientists, or we can think of it as the data that the scientists are picking up on their many devices. I forget how many telescopes that are watching this object. I'll look it up. But there are so many, and they're all collecting data. There's spectroscopy, there's astrophotography, there's different ways of collecting data. And all of what this data is telling the scientists is that this is not a comet. So the data does not support that hypothesis. And that's what the guides told me. And we're seeing that more and more, right? Every day, every time they get new pictures and new data, it's like, this does not support that. But what I was told was not only was it not going to support the model of this is a comet, but that it was going to really cause a lot of confusion and a lot of questioning, because it wasn't just going to challenge models of comets, but it was going to challenge models of astrophysics in general, cosmological models in general, even the laws of physics. And so I do feel like in the couple weeks since I got that reading, that we are seeing more and more evidence of that the more stuff that comes out, the more images that come out, the more analysis that comes out of data, the more we see that what they're collecting in terms of data, is revolutionary. It's really challenging what we think we know. Okay, but let's look at more images. So here's another image that we have. And again, I got this from Avi Loeb. He's got great images on his Medium site. And this is an image from UCLA, I believe, and also the Shanghai Astronomical Observatory, presumably in China. Okay. It has all, I'm looking at the image credits. Let me see. Can you see the image credits? So the image credits are actually from several, can you see that? Locations. And let me see if I can move it up. Can you see that? Yeah. Do you see those image credits? Yeah. So I'll move it back down a little bit so you can see the picture more. So it's from the Hubble Space Telescope on November 30th. But they're giving the image credit to all of these different astronomical agencies, which are working together, presumably. The European Space Agency, NASA, which is the US Space Agency, and we also had the Chinese Space Agency involved. So here's a picture of it. And here's this is an older picture of it from July. This is a picture from December 2nd. From Namibia, that's in Africa, Southern Africa, near South Africa. They have a very large telescope down there. We've seen other images from this same observatory in Namibia. But isn't this beautiful? Um, so the sunward direction is pointing to the lower left. And so we can see that it has a jet going towards the sun, going towards the lower left. All right. So there's some more beautiful pictures. And so let's talk about some more data they've collected. Um, so apparently there are two jets now. Um, one is going 60,000 kilometers towards the sun, which is apparently 10 times the radius of our Earth. So that's a huge jet of whatever it is, right? Um, and it's being described as having this teardrop halo. And what Avi Loeb is saying, he wrote a paper about this, is that perhaps this halo is composed of numerous objects, numerous macroscopic objects. And so now this has got people all in a tizzy, this new theory, this new idea that, could it be that this huge halo of something that's always pointing to the sun, maybe it's not like a cometary tail, like what we're used to thinking of, like dust and gas. Maybe it's a bunch of small objects. And so there's a couple of people who've talked about this. I'm going to talk about Avi Loeb first. He says maybe it's a bunch of objects and they're moving towards the sun. And that's why they're always facing the sun, because they're actually these little objects which have maybe broken off from the main object, or maybe they've been sent out like probes or some type of artificial object that's been sent. Like, I don't know, millions of tiny drones. I don't know. I think there's different ideas out there, but I don't know. I think it's exciting. Yes, we don't know, but beginning to be imaginative about this is important. Beginning to think about what are all the possibilities. Because according to Avi Loeb, if you have that hypothesis, a lot of the data fits that. Like that would explain its motion, its extent, the way it's responding to solar wind, etc. So I don't know. I think that's really interesting. Okay, and so here are some additional images, recent images. We've got some images from Italy on November 30th, taken by Hubble Space Telescope. And so if you can see from the commentary at the bottom, the left panel shows the original exposures, the middle panel, they've put it through a type of filter to sharpen its features. And then the right panel is a special filter just for looking at rotational gradients, or I guess evidence of, what's rotating. And when we look at the right hand panel, we can see that there are two jets, where one is facing towards the sun. And he's saying that you have to look up to the upper left-hand corner for where the sun is in this picture. So you see a jet facing towards the sun and a jet facing away from the sun. Okay. So maybe we'll just look at a little bit of what Avi Loeb says. He was saying that this last image was showing evidence for two jets, showing that one was extending out to 60,000 kilometers, 10 times the Earth radius. It's so interesting, right? And then he talks about how it reversed direction. Like, how did that happen? That this this jet just reversed direction relative to the motion of 3I Atlas. This is not normal. Here's another image from November 28th, and the sunward direction is the lower left corner. And so you can see again in this image that there's a jet facing towards the sun and also a jet, much longer jet, facing away from the sun, right? And here's another image. I think we've already seen this one. So those are just some more images for us to discuss. Okay, so this teardrop halo that we just saw is composed of possibly a bunch of objects, according to Avi Loeb. And there are so many possibilities, right? And so I want to connect this to what I said a couple of weeks ago, what I got in my channeling. They said that they were doing some energetic work with the sun. When I asked about the purpose of Three Eye Atlas, I was told that they were here to do for two purposes. One, to do a survey of life in the solar system, and they were surveying Venus, Jupiter, Mars, the sun, and Earth. And they were explaining to me that there are earth forms on all of those planets, even though humans are not aware of that because we're hyper focused on 3D life, physical life as we know it. And we're not even, they kind of made fun of us how we're not even, like, our scientists aren't even aware of all of the life forms on our planet because they're so focused on 3D only. So, in addition to all the species of animals and plants and microorganisms that we have on this planet, we also have multiple energetic layers where energetic beings live. We have other dimensions. We have beings who live in the center of the earth who actually are physical beings, but we're just, well, we, meaning the scientific community, doesn't acknowledge their existence. We have beings in the ocean, which, actually the US government did acknowledge this year. Um, Beings in the ocean that aren't just, fish. Um, so, they were saying that they're aware of all of these life forms on our planet and also on other planets. So on other planets, they have non-physical, what we would think of as non-physical life forms that don't fit within our definition of physical life that we have kind of very narrowly construed on planet Earth. So when we have these ideas about which planet is habitable, we're wrong because we're basing it on a very narrow set of parameters that we need for our life. But there are lots of life forms over there. And so they said they were coming here to kind of do a survey of the different life forms. They were also coming here to do some energy exchanges with the sun, and that those energy exchanges with the sun are going to benefit all life forms in the solar system. So when I think about that channeling that I got, and I kind of put it up next to this newest data that suggests that there might be lots of objects streaming towards the sun from Three Eye Atlas. And, we don't know if they're natural objects or artificial objects, but either way, I think they fit in with what I was told, because I was told there's going to be some type of energetic communication between these two bodies. And certainly, if there are objects flying into the sun from this object, there's going to be a transfer of energy. So I think this is really fascinating. And because life on Earth is the result of the sun is the source of our life. Whatever happens to the sun is going to impact our planet. And of course, we have been seeing a lot of solar flares, a lot of kind of heightened solar flare activity in the last few weeks, maybe a few months. Um, and people are asking questions about, is it connected to Three Eye Atlas? Why is there this kind of coincidence between this object passing right near the sun and all of these new solar flares? And then we're also seeing some effects on planet Earth, some electromagnetic effects. And so there are a lot of questions that people have. And I think this is really interesting. Now, this whole idea, this, of, oh, something is moving towards the sun from Three Eye Atlas has prompted some different hypotheses, which I think are really fascinating. And so if we look at some of these other people who've been following this, like Dobsonian Power, who's an amateur astronomer, and also Ray from Ray's Astrophotography, another amateur astrophotographer, they've been talking about these objects and kind of speculating as to whether or not there could be some type of seeding going on. And I think Avi Loeb even has a recent post about, is Three Eye Atlas an alien intruder or a gardener, something like that. And so now there's this idea of seeding. Are they sending out seeds, right? What is that, what they call it? Are they sending out, where is it? interstellar seed hypothesis. Also, Stephen Burns has also talked about this. So Ray, Stephen Burns, Avi Loeb, and Absonian Power have all now talked about this possibility. Is there some type of seeding going on? And why are they also talking about this? It's not just because there are all of these possible macroscopic objects moving towards the sun coming out of this interstellar object of unknown origin. But also they're doing some spectrographic analysis, and spectrography, remember, is when you use, we can call it like a camera, to look at wavelengths, color wavelengths that help us to identify chemical composition. And these type of readings tell us what the chemical composition of 3I Atlas is, of the things around it. Is it putting out certain gases, or is it made of certain minerals? And they've been finding very interesting chemical compositions. And one of the chemical signatures they found happens to be an ingredient necessary to create life, what we consider life, right? 3D life. And so there's now this hypothesis of, oh, are they planting something? Are they trying to seed life in our solar system on these planets like Mars or Venus or Jupiter that don't have physical life? Is that the purpose of 3I Atlas? So that's a new hypothesis, which again, very fascinating. So here's another image related to that. This is data, spectrographic data. All right, spectroscopic. Sorry, I've been saying the wrong. I said the right word. Spectroscopic data, right? So this is, again, this one is also from, these images are also from Avi Loeb. Maybe they're not from him, but he's reproducing them here. And so he says data on 3I Atlas from the Atacama large millimeter submillimeter array in ALMA, or called ALMA. The flux panel A is so that's this one up here. This very pretty image over here. Panel A, flux map of the spectral line of hydrogen cyanide. This is from September 12th, with contours for the gas components moving towards which would be indicated as blue shifted, or away, red shifted from the observer, and they're overlaid separately. Panel B, also from September 15th. Oh, same thing, but from September 15th. And then panel C looks at the production rate. Can you see that? Production rate of methanol in 3I Atlas as a function of distance from the sun. And then panel D looks at the ratio of methanol to hydrogen cyanide production in solar system comets. So why is this important? Because if you look at these spectroscopic observations of 3I Atlas, you'll see methanol and hydrogen cyanide, and these molecules are known to form on icy dust grains in the cold interstellar medium and act as key precursors for the complex organic chemistry relevant to the origins of life. So this is where this idea came of, oh, are they seeding life? Because this chemical composition is really unexpected. It's really unexpected, but it is curious. It's, it's an interesting oddity that this particular chemical composition, what we would need to start, some life on a planet, just so happens to be on board. And so that's where this theory came of, oh, is this a gardening expedition? Are they coming here to seed life in our solar system? Is that why they're doing these flybys, right? Because they had these kind of close flybys of Mars and Venus and the sun, and now is going to have a close flyby for Jupiter. It's not scheduled to have a close flyby for Earth. We already have life here. so they wouldn't need to seed it here. Uh, but it's interesting, right? What's also interesting about the spectroscopy is that they found no cometary gases. So they didn't just find chemicals they weren't expecting to see, but they also did not find what they would have expected to see for a comet. So again, so many anomalies. It doesn't act like a comet, doesn't look like a comet, it doesn't have the chemistry of a comet, it doesn't have the size of any comets we've seen before. It doesn't have the acceleration of a comet. It just has a lot of peculiar attributes that are not comet-like. Now, there's another person I follow, the Angry Astronaut, who tends to report on, what's the most recent findings from the astrophysicists. And he's been talking about how there are these cryovolcanic explosions coming off of 3I Atlas. And this, again, doesn't make sense, or it's an anomaly, because we would not expect this on something this small. So this kind of thing has been detected, I think, on Jupiter, a very large planet. But why is it happening here? And also, why is it happening when there's almost no water in this interstellar object? And apparently, there are finally some scientists besides Avi Loeb, other scientists who are considering the possibility this is not a comet, that we have to start thinking about what else could it be. And so Dobsonian Power, he's really good at reading the most recent preprints by astrophysicists and talking about them on his channel. And so he was mentioning a recent preprint by E.J. Spear, where they analyzed 15 studies. So it's like a meta study. That's where like a scientist looks at other studies and looks at them for kind of, can you come to some conclusions based on all these studies? And they concluded that based on these 15 studies of different data coming out of this object, it's not a comet. And they did propose other possibilities. They said maybe it's an interstellar crystal or fossil, maybe it's an exomoon, or maybe it's some type of planetary crust fragment. All right, so I just wanted to pull it up. This is the channel I'm talking about, Dobsonian Power, and here he is discussing this preprint. So a preprint is like an article that scientists put out where it hasn't yet been peer-reviewed, it hasn't yet been published by a journal, but they put it out so that people so they can get like the cutting information out fast. And so here's the conclusions of that study across all 15 studies. After doing all the calculations, they came to the conclusion that these results suggest the existence of a new branch of classification for small bodies. And they say that that 3I Atlas is inconsistent with cometary nuclei. All right, so this is the interesting part of this article, I think, is that rather exciting conclusion that, hey, we don't know what this is. It's not consistent with the hypothesis of a comet. We don't know what it is. Here are some possibilities. Now, I find this really interesting also in light of what I was told. So remember, if you've been following me, I did channel 3I Atlas and I asked it, are you a comet? And they said no. And when I asked what it was, I got a couple of different answers. One of them was, we are a multidimensional being. You can't really understand what we are because you're only able to see the version of us that you can see in 3D, what you call 3D. And they said, you have a very limited, you human beings have a very limited kind of perception, and you're only able to see 3 dimensions. And so from your perspective, we look like a rock careening through space. And they said, if you want to think of us as a sentient rock careening through space, we're okay with that because you're not afraid of rocks. You're afraid of everything else. But they said we are a multidimensional being. And they also said that they were a planetoid. And a planetoid is something quite a bit larger than, well, I don't know. Let's look up what a planetoid is. All right, here we go. Our AI overview. It says that a planetoid is a historical term. Oh, so it's an old-timey term. No wonder I can remember what it meant. For a celestial body that is not a major planet or a comet. Oh, I guess they were just making sure we know we're not a planet and we're not a comet. It's commonly used to describe asteroids or minor planets or maybe even dwarf planets. It's never been precisely or formally defined. Thank you, Spirit. This is how psychic works, you know? Quick aside, when you work as a psychic medium, is you get information intuitively and then you have to translate it into English in a way that people can understand. And so sometimes we get words, and sometimes they're old-timey words, sometimes they're words that aren't precisely defined, because the word is being provided because it's a word that we can make sense of. And so what that tells us is they're just letting us know they're not a comet, they're not a planet, but there's some kind of small, you know, I guess it could be a variety of sizes. But when I think of a planet, even a dwarf planet, that's pretty big, right? Um, so which is interesting to me because recently, Ray from Ray's astrophotography, in his recent image, he found that it was possibly the size of the Earth or of Mars. Now, I don't know if anyone else is saying that or if that's just him. I do really like his work. He takes all these great pictures of Three Eye Atlas with his telescope and discusses them. And he was showing a picture, maybe I'll pull that up too. He was showing a picture of Three Eye Atlas that he took, and it was right next to Mars, and they were similarly sized. They were similarly sized. Um, and so he was speculating that maybe this thing is a lot bigger than we think. Now, I don't think that's what the data up till now has supported. I think the data has shown that, well, I guess it depends on what you define as Three Eye Atlas. It does have this 50-kilometer. They have confirmed that it has what, 50 kilometers in one direction, 60 kilometers in one direction of a jet, and I think another 50 or 30 or 40, I'm forgetting, 40,000 kilometer diameter, according to the Hubble, 60,000 kilometer coma. So when we look at the size of that, when we look at the size of the whole thing, then it is like Avi Loeb said, 10 times bigger than Earth. It's quite a large thing. Doesn't mean it's a giant solid planet the size of Earth, right? But whatever it is, maybe it's a smaller object with lots of little objects around it. It's huge. It's really huge. It's bigger by a factor of 10 than planet Earth, whatever it is. So that to me supports what they told me, what I picked up psychically, that it was a planetoid, not some little tiny comet, but a planetoid, something very large. And they did show me that what we can see of it is this very small part of it, because we have this 3D limitation to our perception. And so they compared it to an iceberg where you can see the top of the glacier, but most of the glacier is underwater. And so what you're looking at isn't a great representation of what's there. And so we are seeing now with more and more data coming in that this thing is much, much bigger than they originally thought it was. Now, a big question in a lot of people's minds, especially people who are prone to, fearful thinking, is this thing coming to get us, right? And if it's that big, is it going to destroy us like it wiped out the dinosaurs, right? Is it going to be this giant asteroid that hits planet Earth and wipes us out? My short answer, no. No, that's not what I've been told. So when I did ask about the purpose of this and I did ask about its connection to Earth, I was told that its purpose really wasn't about us, that its purpose for being here had to do with a lot of life forms in our solar system, and it had to do with work it was doing with the sun, and that the work that it was doing was going to benefit us, but the work that it came to do is not focused on us. Now, I did specifically ask about whether or not it was coming to Earth, and that's what a lot of people are afraid of. And when I got an answer for that, they were told me I could not. They were told they. I was told I could not share that. I was told I could not share that, and I think because they don't want people to freak out. And so I was not told anything scary. I was not told that they were going to come here and create any problems. Um, but I was told that they do have part of their mission is related to Earth. I can say that much. It's not focused on us, it's focused on other life forms, plants and animals on planet Earth. It's focused on planet Earth herself as a planet, as a sentient being, and it's not focused on human beings. That being said, I am still very excited about its closer approach on December 19th. It's expected to be, I think it's closest to planet Earth on December 19th. And so we're all kind of waiting to see, is anything going to happen on December 19th? Is there going to be any open contact, any disclosure? Are there going to be any ascension codes sent? Some psychics are saying we're going to get ascension code and help us up level. I do think that's already happening. I think we are already up leveling. And if you've been paying attention to the energy, the zeitgeist, your emotions over the last few weeks, you will have noticed that things have lightened. We were on this kind of death spiral for, 10 months, ever since November of last year, where there was just like the energy was very low. It was very, very much full of despair and fear and suffering. And yes, people are still suffering, but there has been an energetic shift that we've all seen and all felt. And so I do think it's related to Three Eye Atlas. I think we are benefiting from the energetic work that Three Eye Atlas is doing to the sun. I think that work is now benefiting us and it's shifting our consciousness in a positive direction. And that's why we are seeing some changes in our governments, and we're seeing some changes in what's happening globally. And I do think that as we approach December 19th, we're going to see more and more of that shift, that energetic shift. And I feel like we are going to see something significant happen on December 19th. I haven't been told anything about that specifically that I can share, but I am feeling very hopeful about it. So let me know in the comments any other data you've been following related to Three Eye Atlas. Are there other astrophysicists that you've heard from, other astronomers? Have you seen any other preprints about this object? Any other announcements from other space agencies? What are the other psychics saying? There's a lot of us, maybe not a lot, but there's a few of us who have been tuning into Three Eye Atlas, channeling Three Eye Atlas, getting information about Three Eye Atlas. I've looked at a few of those, not a lot. Some people have told me that others are getting the same things I'm getting. Other people are getting other things that I'm not getting. But let me know in the comments if you're an intuitive yourself and you're a psychic, share what you're getting. Some people are having dreams about Three Eye Atlas. Some people are remote viewing Three Eye Atlas. Some people are channeling Three Eye Atlas. Yeah, let me know. Let's all share our information so we can all be prepared, and also all be happy and hyped up and hopeful about this exciting new interstellar object that's taking a tour of our solar system. It's very exciting. If you don't follow me, please do. And I just want to thank everybody who already follows me. I want to thank my members. I did do a new video recently for my members. I want to also thank everyone who comments on my videos. And if you would like to support my 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 work, you can buy me a coffee right here at this QR code. Just take a picture of this little code in the top corner, and you can buy me a coffee. You can also join my Patreon, where as a member, you get these behind the scenes videos from me. Yeah, so thank you to all my members, all my Patreon and YouTube members, and thank you to everybody who tunes in and follows me. I am going to be doing another video about Three Eye Atlas fairly soon, because I do think I'm going to be getting more information between now and the 19th from Three Eye Atlas about what's coming shortly. I just want to remind people that one of the things that they told me was that their being here is it's kind of a provocation for a scientific revolution. And the scientific revolution is related to these political revolutions and spiritual revolutions that we're seeing right now globally. And that's what's really exciting to me. And so following the scientists and what they're saying and how they're beginning to evolve their thinking, and they're starting to admit that maybe they don't know what this is. This is very promising, because a scientific revolution is going to benefit all of us, because it's going to allow people to kind of get out of these dogmatic ways of thinking and begin to ask more questions and be open to more possibilities, including the possibility that Three Eye Atlas is visiting us from another star system with intention, that is connected to beings who are sentient, and that it's here for a beneficial purpose. Um, this is one possibility. All right, until next time, thank you for joining.